Welcome to Voice of the Vatican. Our top stories. World Mission Day. On the 90th anniversary of the day, Pope Francis calls all Christians to missionary life. So we'll take a look at how the Church's missionary zeal is shared throughout the world. Shining the light of Christ. Missionary life in Albania brings healing after communism. Comforting the afflicted. Cammilian missionaries in Flores, Indonesia, working to save lives. Dancing for joy. These Franciscans are missionaries on the streets in northern Italy, sharing the joy of life and showing off some dance moves. Caring for the sick. Tertiary Cappuchin missionaries work to provide healthcare and educational services for children in Equatorial Guinea. Quenching the thirst of Christ. A Syro Malabar parish in Ottowa, Canada, honors an inspirational missionary and new saint, Teresa of Calcutta. And World Meeting of Families. Archbishops in Ireland kick off event preparations for 2018. I'm Ashley Nerona in Rome, Italy, and you're watching Voice of the Vatican, only on Shalom World TV. Sunday, October 23rd, marked the 90th annual World Mission Day. Pope Francis commemorated the event during his weekly Angelus in St. Peter's Square. It was back in 1926 that Pope Pius XI called for the first World Mission Day, and later the custom of sending a special message to all the people of God for the annual occasion was initiated by Pope Paul VI. World Mission Day presents an opportunity to look at the Church's missionary activities throughout the world. Currently, the Church educates 58,521,000 students worldwide at all levels of education. She runs 99,537 charity centers, including hospitals, dispensaries, homes for the aged, for lepers, orphans, the chronically ill, those with disabilities, rehabilitation centers, marriage counseling centers, and much more. According to the Church Annal of Statistics, the total number of Catholic priests, permanent deacons, men and women religious, lay missionaries, and catechists throughout the world is increasing. The number of major seminarians has decreased, although the number of minor seminarians has increased. Overall, Catholics throughout the world have increased by nearly 18.5 million, bringing her worldwide membership to nearly 1.3 billion. The increase affects all continents except Europe, and above all, Africa and the Americas, followed by Asia and Oceania. In his message for the day, Pope Francis asked all Catholics to be missionaries throughout the world for the care of Christian communities in need and for supporting the proclamation of the gospel even to the ends of the earth. Let us not close our hearts, said the Holy Father, within our own particular concerns, but let us open them all to humanity. In the spirit of World Mission Day, we take a closer look at Catholic missionary activities throughout the world. First, shining the spotlight on Albania. Voice of the Vatican spoke to Father Andrea David of the Institute of the Incarnate Word about his 6 years of missionary work there, helping Albanians pick up the pieces after suffering terribly under the oppression of a communistic and atheistic totalitarian rule, which tried to force out any practice of religion among its people.
They were closed by the communists for 50 years. 50 years, no sacraments, no Holy Mass, no baptism, no confessions. The crosses, the churches were destroyed. Even the communists used to destroy the crosses in the cemeteries. So it was terrible.
Knowing the pain in her home country, it was St. Teresa of Calcutta herself who asked the founder of the Institute of the Incarnate Word to send missionaries to Albania. Now they preach missions, conduct spiritual exercises, and run parishes. They bring food, clothing, medicine, and education to those in need. And through their work, exemplify the gospel in action.
We have to build the churches, we have to help the poor people and change the mentality.
The atheistic state also entered schools, asking young people to make the sign of the cross. Anyone who knew how was singled out, and their families arrested and tortured. After communism's fall in 1992, the country is again rediscovering its faith. Now 38% Muslim, 28% Orthodox, and 13% Roman Catholic. Father Carlos Calero has spent 7 of his 8 years of priesthood as a missionary in Albania.
So many Albanians were killed for their faith under atheism and communism, and yet we remember that the church is built on the blood of the martyrs. It's not an easy life there, but a missionary's life is never easy. I feel honored that Christ has invited me to serve there, and I want to continue to announce the good news and proclaim Christ every day through our work.
When Pope John Paul II visited Albania in 1993, he remarked, "Here, man was deprived of fundamental rights, freedom of judgment and action, freedom of conscience, a deprivation that often took on unspeakable brutality." And when Pope Francis visited 21 years later in 2014, he remarked, "Today, the doors of Albania have been reopened, and a season of new missionary vitality is growing for all of the members of the people of God." Father David agrees.
Our mission starts in the church, but not only in the church. We have to spread out the gospel everywhere. This is very important in the shops, in the street. Right now, people are watching us. Missionaries' life is an adventure. It's full of faith, of hope and charity, and it's a sacrifice. But God helps us. The protagonist of the mission is the Holy Spirit. So we have to follow him. I think that the secret of the success of the missions is the Holy Virgin Mary, because she was and she is, she's following every second the motion of the Holy Spirit.
And now to Indonesia. In a country that is 87% Muslim, the island of Flores has the largest Catholic population amongst the 17,000 Indonesian islands. The Cammilian order arrived there 7 years ago, and thanks to benefactors built the St. Camillus Formation Center, capable of hosting about 50 young people to promote vocations, and for the formation of young people to the religious and missionary life. And they've just opened their first novitiate with the first 2 novices. The Cammilian order was founded by St. Camillus de Leles in the 16th century to care for those with contagious diseases, whom no one else wanted to care for. In Indonesia, the order has been charged by the Bishop of Flores with working especially with those affected by malaria. Indonesia has one of the highest percentages of malaria at a rate of 5 per 1,000 and growing. They also coordinate educational programs in villages on the use of mosquito nets, insecticides, and methods for proper personal hygiene. In Indonesia alone, 121 Catholic healthcare institutions and 112 small Catholic clinics are engaged in prevention and treatment. These missionaries definitely have a spring in their step. Their goal, to spread the joy of the gospel. The city of Legnano in the Diocese of Milan was recently invaded by 100 Franciscan monks and nuns, bringing with them dancing flash mobs in marketplaces, faith-filled conversations on street corners, concerts, talks, and songs.
We want to meet people where they're at, especially the youth and young families, in the streets, at the market, in their homes. We want to give them an experience of the joy of living the gospel and the joy of life in the Lord.
It was a priest of Legnano who invited the Franciscan missionaries to come, and they responded from 100 cities throughout Italy. This missionary initiative began last week with a Holy Mass celebrated by Cardinal Scola, and then the 10 days of dancing and preaching commenced. In Equatorial New Guinea, the Capuchin Tertiary Fathers and Brothers of Our Lady of Sorrows and the Capuchin Tertiary Sisters of the Holy Family, all founded by Venerable Luis Amigo, have helped more than 4,500 children. One of the main projects is the Luis Amigo Child Care Center in the city of Evanayong, where daily 250 children between 2 and 5 years of age are fed and educated. They also run a healthcare center, which cares for 4,500 people each year, including the chronically ill and dying. Residents of 8 villages in a radius of 50 kilometers also come to receive assistance, since Guinea has no system of public health care. According to Pope Francis, there is an urgency of the missionary commitment of the Church and of each Christian. We too are called to be missionaries and to evangelize all around us in the environment in which we live and work. One of the most prominent missionaries of our time is the great woman we now call Saint Teresa of Calcutta. In honor of her recent canonization, a special Mass of Thanksgiving was held at the St. Mother Teresa Syro Malabar parish in Ottowa, Canada. The celebration included the veneration of her relics and an exhibition on her life. Voice of the Vatican special reporter Tim Kennedy brings us reactions from the event.
So many people came, French-speaking, Italian-speaking, English-speaking, from all the different parts of our diocese. So there's something that's a chord in Mother Teresa's life that speaks to people. They see goodness in her, they want to imitate it, and they want to celebrate it.
For Mother Teresa, happiness was the result of giving. Well, she had really experienced what St. Paul says, that there is more joy in giving than in receiving. Giving to whom? Now, for Mother Teresa, the person to whom she wanted to give was Jesus. I think also she is offering us this secret of finding joy in giving, in loving.
As a young girl of 18, Mother Teresa embraced her calling while living in the small Kosovo village of Letnica.
Today, Letnica is a symbol of coexistence between different religions, and is the symbol of what the Kosovo is today. We have the main boulevard in Pristina, which is named Mother Teresa, and we have the biggest cathedral in Western Balkan, named as well Mother Teresa.
Above the crosses in the chapels of the Missionaries of Charity homes hang the words, "I thirst." It is the thirst of Christ that the missionaries strive to quench each day.
This was the sentence which Christ uttered at his last breath. I thirst. Yes. Basing on this thirst, Mother Teresa used to remind the world, I am not a social worker. I am a Christ's worker. The objective of all my works are to satiate the thirst of Jesus, to work for souls, to save all souls for Christ.
I think that her example, it's an extraordinary example for all the youth in my country, in Albania, where we are very proud for her Albanian blood, and also all over the world, the youth could have her example as a good one to help the people in need every moment, everywhere.
I was so impressed by her life and her radical self-gift to the Lord and her service to the poor that I took her as my confirmation saint when I went through the RCIA program in 2006. So she's been an inspiration and a model to me in my religious life, and my community has a special devotion to Mother Teresa. We actually feel a calling is to bring the light of love to those here in Canada and throughout the world who are just needing that love of God. So Mother Teresa has been a real inspiration for our community. So I feel blessed to be in a community that has a special love for her as well.
Coming up next, we'll go up close with Patrick Novakoski, the editor-in-chief of Legatus magazine, on encouraging business professionals to lead with Catholic values. We'll celebrate faith with a priest on a pilgrimage of thanksgiving to visit St. Maria Goretti after her relics first came to his parish in the United States. We'll celebrate the feast of St. Jude as pilgrims visit his remains in St. Peter's Basilica right here in Rome. And we'll take a look back on the anniversary of the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, which forever changed the tide of Christianity.
Did you like the program you just watched? Help Shalom World bring more programs like this to a global audience. Your support helps us share the peace of Christ with the world. Visit shalomworld.org/donate.
And now, more headline news. Ireland is counting down to 2018, with a conference marking the start of the formal preparations for the 9th World Meeting of Families, an international pastoral event which will take place in Dublin from the 22nd to 26th of August 2018. 600 representatives from Irish dioceses and parishes and from abroad, and more than 20 organizations who support the sacrament of marriage and offer pastoral outreach to families came together on October 22nd to discuss key themes from Amoris Laetitia, the recent apostolic exhortation of Pope Francis. The conference offered reflections on the joys and challenges of family life through talks, prayer, video testimony, drama, and music. The World Meeting of Families takes place every 3 years and is coordinated by the Vatican's Dicastery for the Laity, Family, and Life. Established by Pope St. John Paul II in 1992 as a pastoral initiative, its aim is to strengthen the sacred bonds of the family unit across the globe. The first World Meeting of Families took place in Rome in 1994, the International Year of the Family. And families from all over the world came together to share experiences and to pray and work together to grow as individuals and as family units. Delegates participate in discussion groups on the role of the Christian family in the church and society and are addressed by distinguished speakers. The 8th and most recent World Meeting took place in Philadelphia in September of 2015. As Pope Francis has asked us to be missionaries in our place of work, an organization called Legatus is doing just that by helping Catholic business leaders learn, live, and spread the Catholic faith.
Legatus is Latin for ambassador. It comes from 2 Corinthians 5:20, we're ambassadors for Christ. So that's the origin of the name. Legatus was founded by Tom Monahan. He is also known for founding Domino's Pizza and Ave Maria University, Ave Maria School of Law. And actually, the idea for Legatus happened right here in Rome. In 1997, Tom was invited to a papal audience, an audience with John Paul II. And after receiving communion from the Holy Father, he had the idea for a business organization for Catholic leaders. In short, it's a membership organization for Catholic business leaders. We exist to help our members to grow in their faith in order that they can fulfill whatever God is calling them to do, to be better business leaders, to be better husbands, to be better wives, to run a more ethically formed company, and then within the church and within the community to discern what their role will be in the new evangelization as well.
And Legatus magazine tells the stories of the great things that the over 6,000 members are doing throughout the world.
We have some of the most fascinating, gifted people in our membership, and it's a joy to tell their story. And there's never a shortage of good stories to tell. Our September magazine features Tim and Steph Bush, who are California Legatus members. They made a substantial donation to Catholic University of America to build their business school there, which had just been started about 4 or 5 years ago. And now the school has a generous endowment to build the school, and the teachings that are going to be employed in this business school are solidly Catholic. They're going to form new business leaders for the coming decades, and it's going to have a profound influence on the culture in the United States and beyond. And so that's just one example of so many some of our members have founded universities and colleges. They're presidents of universities and colleges. Many of them, even in secular businesses, will take time away from their business to do mission work in Africa. We told the story in July of a member who took 2 weeks and went to Africa with a company that builds wells in poor areas in rural Uganda. And just the change that they're bringing, even at that small level, is ultimately substantial. I don't think Legatus would exist without John Paul II. He was intimately aware of our founding back in 1987. 18 months after Legatus was founded, he gave a specific address to Legatus. He gave us a charge. He said, the world needs ethical business leaders, and the church asks you to fulfill that role with passion. And that's kind of been our calling card for the last 30 years.
You can see the full interview with Patrick Nowakowski at www.shalomworldtv.org/VOV. Not far from the bones of St. Peter here in Rome are the remains of another great apostle and missionary. That is Thaddeus, better known to us as St. Jude. And on his feast day of October 28th, pilgrims from around the world will venerate his remains in St. Peter's Basilica. Little is known of his life, but it is thought that he traveled to Beirut and Edessa, Armenia, to bring the good news. And he may have been martyred with St. Simon in Persia. An epistle in the New Testament is also credited to St. Jude. He's the patron saint of hopeless causes, and many famous organizations invoke his patronage, including several hospitals, the most famous being St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, USA. On his feast, we reflect on verses 20 and 21 of his epistle. But you, my beloved, building yourselves upon your most holy faith, praying in the Holy Spirit, keep yourselves in the love of God, waiting for the mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ unto life everlasting. St. Maria Goretti was only 11 years old when she was killed in 1902. A neighbor had made sexual advances, and when she refused, he stabbed her 14 times. She died forgiving him, saying she wanted him one day in heaven with her. She is truly an exemplar of mercy during this Jubilee year. And exactly 1 year ago this month, her relics were brought across the sea from Italy for veneration in the United States. Father David Meadow invited the delegation to the church he pastors, St. Mary Immaculate in Plainfield, Illinois. And when he opened the church doors at 8 a.m. that morning for veneration, he never expected he wouldn't be closing them until after midnight.
She is, as I described her to our people, a magnet of mercy. Because not only did 16,000 people come to visit and to pray with St. Maria Goretti, but we had about 2,000 people go to the Sacrament of Reconciliation. In addition, starting the very next day, we began to hear of healing miracles that took place in the lives of people directly because of their contact.
One pilgrim who had traveled all the way from Kentucky had been told by her doctors after an accident that she'd live in chronic pain, her arm immobilized, without ever having full use again. But the Lord had different plans for her.
The next day, she was found on the floor of our church, weeping uncontrollably in front of a statue of St. Maria Goretti. This is what she said to me. Father, during the night, I felt a strange sensation in my body. And she stood up and she said to me, Father, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And she was weeping and giving thanks to St. Maria and to God, but also out of a sense of unworthiness. She felt that there were people in her family who had greater needs. And why her? And of course, I said to her, you have to go to your bishop. You have to go to your priest. And people need to hear this story. And this story will bring joy and wholeness into the life of your whole family. And keep praying with St. Maria Goretti. You never know what else will happen.
Many physical and spiritual healings occurred in Plainfield, even for those who weren't expecting it.
After everybody had left and we gathered around the glass coffin containing St. Maria's relics, we gathered with the police and fire department officials who were there. And they had worked a long day, put in many hours, and they were a little frustrated. And then I told them her story. And the way I put it to them was, I think she has a particular connection with people in law enforcement because she was a crime victim. And there were tears in their eyes, and it became a powerful, prayerful moment. They knelt in prayer before her coffin. They lovingly and faithfully carried her coffin out to the waiting truck. And they ended that day with a sense of finally knowing why they were there. Not even I could have anticipated the immense holiness that filled our parish and the people who were there, not just that day, but it was palpable for days and weeks afterwards.
Now, 1 year later, Father Meadow and his family made a Thanksgiving pilgrimage to St. Maria's hometown of Nettuno, Italy. And next week on Voice of the Vatican, we'll share part 2 of Father's experience, touched by a saint. The 1705th anniversary of the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, which is celebrated on October 28th, reminds us that with God, all things are possible. In the year 312 AD, the pagan Constantine was preparing to enter battle against Maxentius, and his troops were grossly outnumbered. Then he had a vision and heard the words, "With this sign thou shalt conquer," and saw the Greek letters Chi and Rho. Father Sean Grismer of the Diocese of Rockford, Illinois, explains the impact of this event on the history of the Church and the world.
After finding out what those first 2 letters were, finding out that that was the Christian symbol for Christ, the 2 letters of Christos, the Chi and the Rho, he went and he consecrated this entire city to the God Jesus Christ. What's amazing is that we find within this one man, what was the center of Christian persecution became the center of the Christian faith, of Christianity itself. It's truly incredible that by one person, God was able to transform an entire world, because it's from Rome then, no longer from Jerusalem, but from Rome, that the Christian faith went out. It's from Rome that the Christian faith expanded. And just by his own conversion, he was able to convert the hearts and the minds of an entire empire. And with this idea that God, with one person, can change the world, just how much he does that with us. And if we allow God into our lives, no matter if we've already accepted him, no matter whether we've been baptized, we can always invite him more into us. The more that we accept God, the more he can transform us and transform hundreds, thousands, millions of lives through us. Not maybe in my daily communication, but through generations of people as well. So my daily yes becomes God's triumphant, magnificent victory in the world.
All week, you can keep up with the latest happenings in Rome on our Twitter feed, which is @Voice of Vatican. And be sure to like us on Facebook on our Voice of the Vatican page. Keep checking our social media feeds for breaking news and information about upcoming guests and features. And we want to hear your voice too. Email your questions to us at vov@shalomworld.org. I'm Ashley Nerona, and on behalf of the entire staff and crew of Voice of the Vatican, I wish you a blessed week. May God bless you and your family. Saying ciao for now from the Eternal City. I'll see you right here next week on Voice of the Vatican, brought to you on Shalom World TV, where we bring Rome to your home.